Hello, everybody, and welcome to another one of my interviews. Today, as you can see, I will be interviewing the incredible Kelly Glyptis, who's currently playing Carlotta on the West End. So I hope that you guys enjoy it.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Before starting with the questions, I wanted to thank you for your time to do this, and yeah.
Of course. Sorry, my hair is like a mess. God.
So my first question is, how or when did you realize that you wanted to be an artist?
Oh, wow. So my mother was actually a professional dancer. And so I grew up sort of in the arts world. She also ran a children's theater company. So I was sort of thrown into it. So I started really, really early, but I started performing when I was like 3 or 4. But I think I knew I wanted to be a performer. Probably, I think I was like 10-ish, somewhere in there, about 10 years old. Um, and I saw a performance by this young woman um, at my mother's children's company, and it was just so stunning, and she just was so incredible. And I just remember being like, wow, like I want to do that. And I just looked up to this girl, and I mean, I think she was like 15, but I thought I was young, so I was just like, oh my gosh, like so. I just thought it was amazing, and then I started really training and getting into it. And when I was about 13, I started singing some classical stuff, 13 or 14. Yeah, and then when I was 15, I actually went to the Washington National Opera Institute for young singers, and that was my first kind of introduction into the world of opera. So yeah, and then it just kind of I've always been interested in. My mother was also she was an actor combatant, so she did like fight choreography and stuff with the Society of American Fight Directors. So I also grew up doing that. So I've always sort of been around all of that stuff too. So my one of my other passions is sword fighting and doing stage combat and all of that too, stunt work.
So your family was supportive when you told them that you wanted to like do this.
Yeah, I was very lucky. Yeah, I mean, obviously, my mother being in the arts, she was very supportive. And yeah, the rest of my family has been really supportive, and everybody's, I'm definitely one of the lucky ones. I don't really have that story of like my parents wanted me to be doctors and a doctor and all. I think my mother, I'm very lucky. If I told my mom, I wanted to be a doctor, she'd say, "Fantastic, I love that for you." If I said I wanted to be an astronaut, she'd say, great, your math isn't that great, but go for it, you try. so um but yeah, I'm very lucky to have the mother that I have. Yeah.
And do you have like any inspirations?
Inspirations, like people who inspire me, or like things, or
Anything that inspires you?
um so I mean, something that has sort of my mother is a very big inspiration for me. She worked really hard, so she danced with the Seattle Opera Ballet when she was in high school. She worked really, really hard, along with my grandmother. The women in my family, especially, we're very we're sort of very matriarchal family, if you will. And yeah, my mother, she once said to me, she said, Kelly, she said, I wasn't the best dancer in New York. And she said, but I stayed and I worked really hard. And I thought, okay. And she said, it's about the hard work. It's about, yeah, you have to be talented, but there's so much other stuff, and that's always really stuck with me. Another really close story to my heart is a very dear friend of mine from elementary school, from primary school. Her grandfather used to take us to he would drive us to school every morning, and he was always playing opera in the car. It was always opera, always classical music. And I just remember him. He was so cool, and he was such like an amazing guy who like listened to opera just unapologetically, unabashedly. And it was, I think, even from early on, just the people that were around me that were very much, doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, you do what's in your heart, and you do, and you do the thing that you love, and that's always really stuck with me. So yeah.
Do you have any dream roles?
Dream roles. I keep telling myself I need to like write things down because I always, I mean, the answer is yes. I've got like lots, but I can never remember them off the top of my head. In the opera world, I would love to do Sor Angelica, like in front of a in front of an audience. At some point, I would love to do. I want to sing Magda in the Consul. It's another big one for me. I covered it, and I really enjoyed it. But I'd like to actually sing the role. Things like Tosca, that would be amazing. Turandot, things like that. But for musical theater, yeah, I mean, I've gotten to actually play a couple of dream roles. So I got to do The Witch and Into the Woods, which was amazing. I've had the opportunity to play Ida in Honk, and I love that musical. I think it's such an underrated musical. I would love to do. I would like pay someone to let me do Honk again. I loved Honk. Yeah, I did. I got to do Mary Poppins one time in Mary Poppins, which was just such an incredible role. There's some roles out there I like in The Secret Garden. I would love to play Lily. There's, Into the Woods. I think I'd like a shot at Baker's Wife, that kind of stuff. There's tons of little things. Les Mis, obviously, Fantine is like I think that's everybody's dream role. So yeah, there's lots of them. I need to start writing them down because I always get this question and I never know what to say.
So yeah, now I have questions now related to the show. So my first question about that is, how did you prepare for your role?
Well, first thing was I read the novel. That was the first thing I did, and then I read the script, and I did some research on just sort of history in that time period, late 1800s, and sort of what was going on, especially musically at that time. So that really helped inform my character as Carlotta, sort of figuring out kind of just generally also historically what was going on. So which are all really important things. And then of course doing things like researching the Italian accent and making sure, because obviously I'm American, in England speaking with an Italian accent. So it's a little bit of like I walk out of the theater and no one recognizes me. No one knows. Like I walk out of the theater and people are just like, can you move? Like we're waiting for people. Can you move? And I'm like, all right. Like, so, because I don't have the red hair. I obviously don't speak with an Italian accent. So there's usually one person out at the stage door who'll be like, were you Carlotta? And I'll be like, yeah. And they're like, oh. And then everyone goes, oh. So it's kind of a wild thing. But yeah, just getting myself prepared in that way, and then obviously coaching some of the music and stuff, making sure that everything is solid, and then obviously rehearsals and getting myself together in that way. So yeah.
And what was the audition process for the show like?
So I had 6 auditions,
Oh.
which is a lot. Yeah, and my final audition, it lasted. I think I was there for like 6.5 hours, something like that. So there were obviously, it wasn't just me. There were multiple people there throughout the day, but I was there for quite a long time. The auditions consisted of, so I had to sing an aria, and for my initial, and a musical theater piece. And then I did some callbacks musically. I had a dance callback. We had some acting things. And then the final one was actually here at Her Majesty's Theater on the stage. So we had to sing like in the theater, which was really cool. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, I think the process was 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. So it was a big process, but definitely worth it.
What was your reaction when you found out that you got the role?
Oh, so I was in rehearsal for another opera that I was doing. I was doing a world premiere of an opera. It was called Her Day. And everybody knew that I had been in the audition process, obviously, because I'd missed a couple rehearsals, and we were just sitting there chatting before we were starting rehearsal. And the music director, bless her heart, she played the opening chord of the opera. And my phone started to buzz. And I'm not in the first like 10 pages of the opera, right? So I kind of looked down, and it was my agent, and I just was like, I was like, oh. And she stopped. I looked at her and she looked at me and she went, is that? And I said, yeah. And she was like, answer it, go answer it. And I said, okay, okay. So I answered it. And she said, and my agent said, Kelly, you've been offered the role of Carlotta. And I said, the understudy or the role? And she was like, no, no, the role. And I was like, are you sure? And she was like, yeah. She was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, but I was like, okay, okay. I was like, sorry. I was like, oh my god. Okay, well, I'm I'm in rehearsal right now, but like, can I call you back? And she was like, yeah, of course, of course. And so I walk in and I'm like crying, and I'm like, I got it. And so everybody was like, oh my god. And I was like, well, I think I got it. I was like, maybe I heard her wrong. I was like, maybe I heard her wrong. I was like, so yeah, I don't know. So then we had a break, and I called my agent back, and she said, no, you like they want to like the actual role. And I said, okay, is there going to be an email? Can I see it in writing? I just like, I couldn't believe it. So yeah, it was wild, but I cried, and it was very, very stereotypical. Like, I was very excited, and everybody was like, oh my gosh. So yeah, it was good. It was a good experience.
Do you have a favorite song or part in the show?
Oh man. I do love, so the cadenza is a lot of fun, and the whole Hannibal scene. But I do love Il Muto, the little Mozart scene. I think it's so expertly crafted. Angela Lloyd Webber does a really nice job of emulating Mozart, and it's it's a lot of fun because it's the scene from Marriage of Figaro that we don't actually get to see. So like everybody knows that Carabino and the Countess are like secretly in love with each other, but like it's not so secret. Um, but this is the scene where we actually get to like see them together, and it's the scene that Mozart like didn't write, but we know like he wanted to write. So it's a lot of fun, and I get to do some little coloratura moments, and I get a big giant wig, and it's like it's just really fabulous. So it's that's probably one of my favorite parts. And there's right at the top of that scene, we get the ba bum ba bum ba bum ba and it's a little homage to Come Scoglio from Così fan tutte,
Yeah.
which I just so every time that plays, I go Come Scoglio, like I'm just yeah. So it makes me very happy. Yeah.
Have you had any mishaps on stage?
Yeah, I mean, things happen, there's, we, just the other day, actually, somebody was holding a goblet and during the Don Juan scene, and he went like this, and he was, I mean, he's not toasting it. He doesn't hit anything, nothing. He's just raising his glass, right? And the whole top of the goblet just went into the wing. And so he went like this, and it just flew off into the wing, and he's holding just the base of a cup the whole rest of the scene. So he's just going like, okay. So yeah, things happen. We get like my dresses get stuck on things. I've had my earring. My earring got stuck right there, and so I was like flirting like this, and then I was like, and I could, and so I had to like, so lots of things happen, but most of the time it's just little stuff, and you just kind of figure out how to. Like yesterday, I went to go like open my fan, totally. I don't know what happened, and it just fell out of my hand, and I just stood there, just you know, can't go right all the time. So here we are. But yeah, there's lots of little tiny things that happen, and it just makes it a little fun for us on stage. But very rarely will the audience like notice anything. So yeah.
Yeah. How do you take care of yourself when doing like such a demanding show?
So yeah, it's really important to like vocal health and just health in general. Obviously, eating well, making sure you're getting exercise and such. And yeah, I mean, I just sort of take it on a daily basis. It's I'm try to stay hydrated, things like that. And there's just little vocal things. I mean, like we've had some illnesses kind of through the cast recently, and um so I've had a little something, but one of my favorite things to do is I take apple juice and I heat it up really hot, and then I add ginger, cinnamon, star anise, cloves, and ground nutmeg, and I pop it all in there, and then I stick it in a container, and that's what I sip on. And that, instead of drinking tea and all that, that's what I, because it helps soothe the throat, and it's not going to dry me out or anything. And yeah, that's a little thing I do. I've also got my little, oh, where it is, where did I put it? I have a little steamer thing. Where is my steamer?
Yeah.
It's somewhere. I've got a little steamer thing that I use occasionally. But yeah, I try to just, honestly, I'm pretty normal. Like, some people think I'm weird, but like, I'll just like eat normal food, and it's,
Yeah.
I'm not too fussy. But it's really about managing and like keeping yourself just healthy in general, right? So, because it is 8 shows a week, every single day. We get one day off a week, and it's all year. So it's, it really is about, it's about the marathon and maintaining, not about, got to get through this. So it's just being healthy in general. Yeah.
I just have like one more question.
Sure.
And that is like if you have any advice for aspiring performers.
Yeah, my advice for aspiring performers in any capacity is uh, maybe a couple things, is sort of along the lines of kind of what my mother always told me, which was, yeah, you have to have talent, obviously. There has to be some of that built in, but there are so many things that don't require talent, right? Being a good colleague, being on time, having a pencil, knowing your lines, knowing the music, like things like that, right? Just being prepared, being intelligent and smart about what you're doing. Again, being a good colleague, being a good, easy to work with, good to work with. Um, the other thing I would say is, always be open to learn new things. Because especially in theater, especially in the arts, um, we evolve as humans and as people, obviously, but everything is evolving, everything is changing, everything is different, and there's always another way to look at it. There's always another way to play it. There's always, there's no one set thing that you ever do. So the biggest thing that I've always tried to take with me into rehearsal spaces or whatever, even if like in opera, especially, like, you'll do Marriage of Figaro
Mhm.
at 17 different companies, and you played the Countess a million times or whatever, right? But the way they do Marriage of Figaro in Atlanta is not the same way they're going to do Marriage of Figaro in London, and it's not the same way they're going to do it in Spain, and it's not the same way they're going to do it in Puerto Rico. It's not the same way they're going to do it in France, right? So it's always be open, right? And learning never stops. I'm a really big believer in that. I've been teaching for 16 years, but I still take classes. I still go to beginner classes. I'll go and just take like a beginning Shakespeare course, even though I teach Shakespeare, like, because you can always learn, and there are things that maybe you forgot, or whatever. And it's so yeah, that would be my advice, is always stay open, always be willing to learn, and and be a good person. That's the that's, I think that's just in life, just like, be
Yeah,
nice. Everybody's going through something, so be kind.
I really love that so much. Those are, well, pretty much all the questions that I had for you, and I just don't want to like take more of your time. So I just wanted to thank you once again for your time to do this and like answering all the questions. And it was really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. I hope all the editing or uploading, all that goes well.
Thank you so much, and I hope you have a
You're
nice
welcome.
day.
Thank you. I'll see you later.
See you. Bye.
Bye.